Initially, Dr. Julian Chorazitsky's organization committee concerned itself solely with the objective of arming its aspiring insurrectionists. Finding the valuables necessary for underhand trading proved to be no issue for the committee, as the Jews could easily smuggle gold, watches, and other valuables from the sorting sheds. The issue was finding those trustworthy enough, and even more importantly, willing enough, to smuggle them arms. Initially, the committee targeted some of the Treblinka guards in the camp, those that they trusted most, or were even friendly with. While none of these men ratted out the Jews to the SS, they refused to trade arms with the inmates, fearing the likely lethal repercussions of such if they were ever discovered. Therefore, Chorazitsky turned his attention to the camouflage team, who were regularly allowed outside of the camp to collect twigs and leaves to weave into the barbed wire fencing surrounding the camp. Some of these men were able to sneak off to the local Treblinka village, where they tried to bargain with some of the farmers. Unsurprisingly, the villagers of the Treblinka village also abstained from trading weapons with the inmates, wisely rationalizing that their village would likely be endangered if these weapons were ever found, and the trail linked back to them. Although such trade attempts were unsuccessful, it did not dampen Chorazitsky's spirits, who was determined to collect so many valuables that one could make an offer that nor the Trebnikis or the villagers could refuse. As a qualified physician, Chorazitsky was responsible for taking care of the Treblinka SS, Trebnikis, and even occasionally some of the more valuable inmates when they were sick. One morning, in early April 1943, Chorazitsky was working in what was just another ordinary day, toiling away in his infirmary for the SS. However, it was on this day that disaster struck for Chorazitsky. You see, that morning, Chorazitsky had been smuggled a large wad of cash from some of the sympathetic gold Jews who worked in a hut nearby to his infirmary. Shortly after receiving this substantial amount of money, SS Untersturmführer Kurt Franz randomly entered the infirmary during his daily tour of the camp. Panicking, Chorazitsky attempted to stuff the wads of cash into the pockets of his coat that he had hung on the wall near the door. Alas for Chorazitsky, in his haste, he had not properly concealed the notes, so the wads were still sticking out of his coat. Franz, puzzled by these large wads of cash, noticed them and seized the money from his coat, before turning to question Chorazitsky. Fearing that the game was up, and predicting that he would likely be tortured as his answers to Franz's questioning would inevitably be deemed to be unsatisfactory, Chorazitsky charged Franz, hoping to silence the Untersturmführer once and for all. Although startled, the younger, stronger, and fighting experienced Franz quickly overpowered the older, emaciated Chorazitsky. Realizing that his chance of success was hopeless, Chorazitsky took the noblest and wisest course of action he could. He disengaged from Franz and quickly swigged a small vial of poison that he carried around on his person, ensuring that he, and all of his knowledge about the organization committee, would be silenced forever, as to not endanger the lives of his kin. Franz, once he had realized what Chorazitsky had done, panicked. After Chorazitsky collapsed, Franz charged out of the infirmary, shouting for help. But it was too late. Even despite multiple attempts from the SS and Trebnikis to revive Chorazitsky, the physician was pronounced dead. Evidently, Chorazitsky's last gasp attempt to overpower Franz, and his decision to take his own life, was evidence enough to the Untersturmführer that he had been hiding something that made Franz paranoid. In desperation, Franz ordered that all of the gold Jews be taken to the lazaret and tortured, as these men were the source of Chorazitsky's wads of cash. Presumably, Franz thought, these men would have the information on why Chorazitsky possessed such a large quantity of money. Remarkably, however, not a single man gave Franz, or any of the SS, any information, with all of them denying culpability of cooperating with the now deceased physician, suggesting that he acted alone. Convinced that the gold Jews were not hiding anything, Franz released them, albeit through gritted teeth, as the camp could not afford to lose such useful workers. Before the Treblinka revolt came to fruition on August 2nd, 1943, this instance was the closest that the SS ever came to uncovering the organisation committee. And had Franz prevented Choraszewski from swallowing that vial of poison, then perhaps the story might have been very different. Unfortunately for Franz, he was not fast enough, and Choraszewski's tragic sacrifice preserved the secrecy of the Jewish underground in Treblinka, and emboldened his men to carry on, to avenge his death. Losing one's leader is not often a good thing, especially if they were competent, like Choraszewski. However, his heroic struggle and sacrifice made him into something that any authority fears, an emblem of inspiration for his people, a martyr.